Hi everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the Spark podcast. My name is Jack, I'll be your host, and today we're going to talk about the food pyramid. The food pyramid is something that everyone kind of learns about when they're young, either in primary school or secondary school or high school if you're so inclined. And I feel like there's a lot of problems with the version that we learned off of. The thing that kind of got me to look into this was I was listening to is it Matt Cooper is the last word on Today FM? Hashtag plug. But no, seriously, I like listening to Matt Cooper. He talks about interesting things and he has interesting people on. And it's nice after work just to forget about work and just think about some other kind of topic for a while. But there was a woman on, I can't remember her name, she was a doctor of some sort, but she was on about type 2 diabetes and why the diets of people in Ireland is increasing the level of people being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, which is bad, pretty obviously. But she went on to say that the food pyramid is still being used in the hospitals and it's fucked. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll better look into that. So I went and tried to find out where the fuck did the food pyramid come from, why is it the way it is, and is there anything alternative that we should be using. So to start off, the food pyramid was originally published in Sweden in 1974. It was an effort to inform people which foods were both cheap and nutritious. This is because food prices were particularly high in 1972. Apparently, I wasn't around at the time, but this is what I read. It included basic foods like milk, cheese, margarine, bread, cereals, and potatoes, but didn't really specify the quantities that they should be eaten. These are just really cheap foods that have enough nutrition, that have a good nutrition to cost ratio, we'll say. So if you're poor and food's expensive, you just get these foods and you'll live a bit longer because it's cheaper and you can eat more of them. And they're good for you within a certain amount. But they didn't specify the amount, so there's problems already. Then the US kind of got a hold of it. And developed their own food pyramid in 1992. It was developed by the US Department of Agriculture. So, for me, when I read this was a little red flag that went up. And I'll explain why in a moment, but just remember, it was the US Department of Agriculture that put this together. Not the medicine or health board, the agriculture part of it. So they developed a food pyramid in 1992. The way the food pyramid works, for anyone who hasn't seen one, is it's a triangle, basically. It's not really a pyramid. Well, if you think about it in a three-dimensional space, it would be a pyramid, but let's not get into semantics. Basically, there's different tiers. So the top tier is smaller, so it should be less servings eaten per day. And the bottom tier is larger, which means there should be more servings eaten per day, and you just eat as many servings as is recommended by each tier throughout your day. The original food pyramid in 1992 had 4 tiers. The top tier was your fats, oils, and sweets. They should be eaten sparingly. The second tier then is split between 2. You have the milk, yogurt, and cheese group, which needs 2 to 3 servings. And you have the meat, poultry, fish, dry beans, eggs, and... what the fuck is that word? Eggs and nuts. Jesus. My writing is getting worse. There should be 2 to 3 servings of that as well. I'm going to drink a bit of water. It's very early. I have the day off. So... there's no one in the house, so I can be as loud as I want. So that's the second tier. The third tier then, which is more servings again, it's split into 2 again. There's the vegetable group, which you should have between 3 to 5 servings, and the fruit group, which you should have between 2 to 4. The bottom group then is the bread, cereal, rice, and pasta group, and you should have between 6 to 11 servings from this group. 11 servings of grain. How the fuck does anyone eat all that? Like, it's nuts. It's not nuts. It's grains, but it is fucking crazy. Like, and this is kind of what led me into being suspicious of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, because what does agriculture really make the most of? Grains. If they want more people to eat grains, they're going to buy more grains. So that just kind of little red flag for me, and I'm always kind of sketchy if I know who paid for the research has some sort of horse in the race. It's very important to know who funds the research you're reading, because there could be bias or prejudice or money on the line, basically. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture is a big money thing, and what they sell is grain. So if they want you to buy more grain, they're going to recommend that you eat more grain. So I did a bit of research and found a lovely article written by Marianne Nestle, or Nestle. No, I don't think she has any connections to the Nestle company. It was published in the International Journal of Health Services in 1993. So this was the year after the food pyramid had come out. She titled it "Food Lobbies, the Food Pyramid, and U.S. Nutrition Policy." The first bit of it is kind of what sets up. It kind of affirmed, or confirmed, sorry, not affirmed. It confirmed a lot of my suspicions. She says that in 1991, the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, halted publication of the Eating Right Pyramid. This is what they had called it during the development stage. And I quote, "Despite official explanations that the guide required further research and testing, its withdrawal was widely viewed as having been prompted by pressure from meat and dairy lobbying groups that were objected to the way its design displayed their products." So, the US Department of Agriculture was getting letters from lobbyist groups saying that they didn't like the way that their foods were being represented in the healthy eating pyramid. This was like regardless of whether it was healthy or not. They wanted more servings of everything they were selling, and obviously so. The more people eat, the more you sell, the more money you make. And this was only one of many attempts to alter the food pyramid as it was being made. So this obviously created a conflict of interest for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They are kind of set up to protect U.S. agricultural interests and to advise the public about good food choices. And most of the time, those two things don't mesh well together because they want to sell a lot of crops, but they want to advise people to eat good foods. And don't get me wrong, like, you should eat whole grains. You should eat a lot of whole grains, but not 6 to 11 servings. That's way too much. Like, no one should eat that. I can't eat that. I'm a massive person, and I cannot eat 11 servings of grain. It's too much. So I went through this article. I'm not going to list everything that happened because there's a lot of stuff. But if you want to look at it, I found it on ResearchGate. It's a website, and it's only 14 pages long. It's called "Food Lobbies, the Food Pyramid, and U.S. Nutrition Policy." So if you just Google that, it'll probably come up straight away. It was an interesting read, just to see how much money can fuck with people's health and advice that the government gives them. Well, not my government. I don't live in America, but you know, if it's anything to go off, then it's bad for the human race in general. But I digress. That was in the 90s. What has changed since? I went on to Safe Food, who apparently are the Irish authority on the food pyramid for whatever reason. These are the guys who tell you to wash your hands after cutting chicken, which is good advice, don't get me wrong, but what the fuck do they have to do with the food pyramid? Shouldn't that be some sort of Minister for Health deal? But apparently not. So, Safe Food in December 2016 made a few changes to the food pyramid. It was an article. Well, it came about. It was presented as an article written by Aileen McGloin. Yeah, McGloin. She says that because what we typically eat has changed over time and new research has improved our knowledge, the Department of Health has launched a new version of the food pyramid. Oh, so it is the Department of Health. I'm forgetting my own fucking notes. I really should read ahead a little bit before I start talking. But I think the conversation flows a bit better. Conversation. It's not a conversation, it's just me talking. But yeah, I think I talk better without reading. Oh, it's too early. I should really have coffee before I do this. But anyway, we'll move on. So she says that there have been a number of changes. The top shelf foods have been split from the lower shelves. So this is the top shelf food that's high in fat, sugars, and salt. It's been split from the main body of the pyramid to make it clear that these are not needed for good health, which is a move I'm happy with. You don't really need sweets to live. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy them. They're great and all that, but they'll kill you. They're just a nice taste for like 20 minutes, and then it's just gonna kill you. The top shelf should be limited to 1 to 2 servings per week. That's a big change from the sparingly every day. So 1 or 2 a week. At the moment, unfortunately, 20% of children's diets in Ireland come from this shelf. So that's a big chunk. That's a big step up from 1 or 2 servings a week to 20%. That's fucking nuts. It's too much. The second change is the vegetables, salad, and fruit shelf, which was before called the vegetable group, has increased its number of servings a day. It's up to 5 to 7 a day. Foods in this shelf should be central to our meals. At the moment, only about 25%. So 25% of us are meeting this guideline. That's to have 5 to 7 servings of fruit a day. On average, only people have 2 servings of fruit or veg a day, or salads, or what is it again? Vegetables, salads, and fruit. Yeah. So if you're like me and you only have 2 portions a day, you're not eating enough. Eat more veg. The third change is the wholemeal cereals and breads. Oh, fucking hell, they really fucked up the name of this one. I'm going to call it the carbs shelf, because it's way easier, and I know it's not entirely made up of carbs, but what they call it is the wholemeal cereals and breads, potatoes, pasta, and rice shelf. That's way too much. I'm just going to call it the carb shelf. Has been moved up, so it's no longer the bottom tier. It's moved up from the bottom because of the number of servings has been reduced. It's now above the vegetable, salads, and fruit shelf. Now you might think this is great. But the fourth change they made is the serving size for the wholemeal cereals, the carbs shelf, has been increased. So it's now increased to 150 calories per serving. That's about 2 slices of regular pan bread. Bread. It used to be half of this. So they really haven't changed anything. They've just changed the way it looks. So they've reduced the number of servings, but doubled the serving size. So I don't think they've changed anything. Which it's just a nonsense change to a system that wasn't working, and it just made it look nicer without actually doing anything. They might have actually made it worse. The fifth change they made is the range of servings from the wholemeal cereals and breads, potatoes, the carbs shelf has changed. Range of servings reduced to 3 to 5 servings per day, so that's still 6 to 10 if you bring in the doubled size. But there is an exception. Active teenage boys and men from 19 to 50 who may use more energy need up to 7 portions. So that's 14 of the original portions throughout the day. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're in the gym 8 hours a day and you're pounding weights, you're doing cardio all day, you're going to need the energy. You eat the whole grain, you eat the carbs, right? You need them, you eat them. But if you're doing that, you know what you're eating. If you're in a gym 8 hours a day, you should know what your diet is. Because what the fuck are you there for otherwise? It's just a lot of carbs, I think, anyway. I could be wrong. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm not eating enough carbs. But I think that's a lot. The key takeouts from these changes, or from the food pyramid that they've developed in 2016, is that you should keep an eye on how many top shelf foods, like the treats and fats and all that, you eat. You should increase the amount of fruit and veg you eat, because nobody's eating enough of those, apparently. Ideally, half your plate should be fruit or veg. Make a note of how much you are eating from the carbs shelf, and compare it to how active you are. Again, if you're in the gym 8 hours a day, eat more carbs. If you're not, eat less carbs. And you should drink at least 8 cups of fluid per day. Water is best. And remember, as I always say, dehydration is the enemy. And with that, I'm going to take a drink of water. So remember, stay hydrated. Now, that kind of led me on to wondering if that's a good guide even still. I found out a few things. When you're looking for advice about your diets, there's a lot of ads. There's a lot of people trying to sell you like trendy diets. Like I've come across no carbs diets, the Atkins diet, which is just meat. Then there's the ketogenic diet, which is like liberally adding healthy fats and all that. It's very difficult to find an ideal meal plan, or not meal plan, but diet plan for everyone. And that's because everyone's fucking different. I don't think there's much point really in giving a general advice of what we should eat every day, because everyone is very different. Like myself at the moment, I've cut out a lot of bread and a lot of carbs, and I've lost a bit of weight, but I feel like I need to lose more. And I know that wouldn't work for some people. A lot of people get most of their excess weight from the sugars they eat, or from the proteins they eat, maybe like direct fats from that. So it depends on your metabolism, your internal makeup, and how you process and digest foods. In my opinion, anyway. I haven't done any research on this. This is just me talking. So I feel like it's a bad move to try and give someone a general guide to go off. But one that I've kind of come to agree with is the healthy eating plate, which doesn't really give you serving size, because which I think is a good thing, because bigger people eat more food and smaller people eat less food. It gives you a kind of a ratio of what you should do, and they're very simple rules. It was developed by the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health in Harvard Medical School, and it kind of splits your meal into sections. So half of your meal should be fruit and veg. You should aim for lots of different colors and variety. There's been a bit of research done on the pigments in food, and apparently each of them, I can't remember if it's vitamins or minerals it's better for, but that's your homework. Go go figure that out, which one is our pigments better for. But apparently there's some chemical in the pigments that help you to absorb different minerals or vitamins. So the more different colors you have in your meal, the better it is for you. That's something that old women have been telling me for years, and I'm like, you're fucking crazy, but it kind of makes sense now. And also, multicolored food just tastes better. If you ever had a curry with like loads of different veg in it, it's delicious. But half of your plate should be fruit and veg. Remember, potatoes don't count as veg because they have a negative impact on your blood sugar. And also, they're very heavy on carbs and probably bad for you. The second rule is to make a quarter of your plate whole grains. So that could be quinoa, oats, brown rice, or whole wheat pasta. And there's a lot of meals you can make with those. There's also a lot of other whole grains that I couldn't think of. So feel free to look. The other rule is to make a quarter, or what's left of your plate, the last quarter, proteins. So the best ones to have really are fish, chicken, beans, and nuts. These are all pretty low in saturated fats. Or, no, I'm talking out of my ass here on this one. But these are kind of the good, clean proteins. You should limit your red meat intake and avoid processed meats like bacon and sausages. It also says to... what am I saying? Use healthy plant oils in moderation. So that's olive oil, peanut oil, soy sauces, etc. I personally use olive oil for cooking pretty much everything because it's cheap and it's right next to the stove. So just put a bit of olive oil, and that's my healthy fats for the day. And of course, as always, drink plenty of water and avoid dehydration, because dehydration is the enemy. It also says to stay active. Exercise every day. That's a given one. The thing about diet is that it's great. It can help you lose weight. It can help you feel better. You get a bit more nutrition in. But it's not the only thing you need to do to be healthy. You need to exercise as well. From my old teachers, they've told me that I think it was an hour a day of exercise is what you should be getting. I think they've reduced that, actually. It's not something that I've looked at recently. Maybe that could be a next episode, or not the next episode, but another episode. But yeah, always keep up the exercise. If you don't walk around and work a lot, we'll go for a walk after work. Take your dog out. Or if you don't have a dog, just walk on your own. Take your other human friends out for a walk. But I think the things to take away from this episode is just watch what you eat. Everyone's different. Things will work for some people and they won't work for other people. Stick to the things that work for you. And always stay hydrated. That's the golden rule. Stay hydrated. Don't eat too much because you'll feel like shit. Avoid saturated fats. Eat healthy fats. Don't eat too much carbs. And eat lots of fruit and veg. Eat a little bit of meat too for your protein. But yeah, that's it for episode 2. Well, thank you for listening. And I'll see you next time. So that episode was actually a bit more rambly than I thought it would be, but sure, why not? We kept going anyway, and we made it through. I want to thank everyone for listening, and the next episode is going to be about scientists turning a cat into a telephone. Yeah, no, they really did that. That was it was an article I came across, and I went, "What the fuck is this?" I need to tell as many people as I can about this. So that's going to be episode 3, and hopefully I'll see you there for that. Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.